بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وآله وصحبه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم آمين يا رب العالمين. So this is the second session of our comments on these comments come questions. Bismillah. So in the last session we addressed the first part of this comment, and the second part is basically a question. Has there been an Islamic religious precedent? I mean, obviously religious is redundant here, because after Islam you don't need religious. Islamic precedents for using the term revolution. So as such, I mean, about terminology, usulis and logicians say various things, and one of the often mentioned and most quoted saying is "La mushahata fil istilah." La mushahata fil istilah. There's no, how would you translate it? There's no contention, or there's no debate as far as there's no contention, or there's no debate as far as terminology is concerned. As long as you define your terms properly, and as long as you are consistent in the use of those terms, the terminology and its worth depends on its uses. For example, many Islamic at some point, many Islamic terminology, even disciplines, didn't exist and didn't have any precedence as such. So usul fiqh didn't exist before. For example, at least in its present form, it didn't exist in the time of Sahaba, or the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For sure, it existed as a what we call saliqa, or implicitly, but as a discipline, it didn't exist. So its justification, it became a heart of Islamic education system because the purpose it serves is aligned with the purposes of the purpose of Islam and Islamic knowledge. And with change in time and conditions, it became absolutely necessary to study usul fiqh in order to be able to know the Islamic injunctions about different situations correctly. And this is usul fiqh. Even mantiq, for example, mantiq didn't exist at the time of the Prophet or sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the time of Sahaba, even in the first generations. But in 6th century or 5th century, Imam Ghazali was able to make this big claim, which hasn't been disputed. That's man la ya'rifu al-mantiq la yusaku bi'ilmihi, or something like that. And if he said man la ya'rifu al-mantiq, whoever doesn't know mantiq, la yusaku bi'ilmihi, his knowledge is not reliable as an Islamic scholar, for example. Meaning, man la ya'rifu kayfa yastadillu bil mabadi wal qawaid al mantiqiyya summa yata'adda ala ilmik. riyad bil ajaib. Yani somebody who doesn't know mantiq, you can't trust their knowledge, you can't trust their um, pronouncements in Islamic matters, for example. And you can say this about anything, really, any of the Islam. Man la yarif sarf, whoever doesn't know Islam, ilm al-tasrif, la yusak bilmi, or al-nahv, la yusak bilmi. So, mantiq, that's Islamic discipline. So, just because the terminology didn't exist, and I'm just assuming that it doesn't exist, but it's not necessary. So that's the first point. So, has there been an Islamic religious precedence? Obviously, your question wasn't that, but it is implied by that in a way. A term Islamic term revolution, Islamic revolution. So that's the first point, a very more trivial point. But more substantial point is that when you talk about Islamic teachings, as Imam Shatibi has said in his al-Muwafaqat, and it's a basic thing which is repeated in any kitab on usul al-din or usul al-fiqh, that in order to arrive at Islamic injunctions, commands, or teachings for a specific matter or situation, what you need to do and know are two things. You need to know the text, nusus, including ijma, that's part of nusus, and their meaning. So what text and ijma says about a particular matter. Or if it doesn't say that, what we can derive from what it says. So either it says something about a particular matter or it doesn't say anything explicit. If it doesn't say, so whether we can derive injunctions about a particular matter from what it says, based on qiyas, for example, and other usuli instruments. But the second thing, and as important, is the knowledge of the situation. Reality as such. And reality includes what happens, events, it includes human knowledge, it includes social organization, everything. So you need two things. Text, knowledge of the text in the broad sense of the word, and all the instruments which you need to know the knowledge of the text, plus the situation, what they call a waqi. And then using the text, you apply your understanding of text to the knowledge of situation in order to arrive at Islamic injunctions about a particular event which is necessarily situated in a particular situation. So you can err about Islamic commandments, and you don't know text, for example, or you don't understand them, or you don't know instrument, you don't have enough knowledge of the instrument which are needed, for example, Arabic language, usul, morphology, nahv, etc., balagha, ilm al-adab, ilm al-lugha, etc. So you can err there, but you can also err as to understanding the situation. You don't understand the situation on which you are going to apply. Not just apply, actually, you are going to understand the text in the context of the situation. So you have to have a knowledge of the situation in order to even understand the text, because otherwise you would be understanding the text in a totally abstract way, which has nothing to do with that situation. So it's not just a question of application. So that's why I say that the knowledge of situation are wrong or imperfect understanding of your situation can lead to imperfect or wrong understanding of the text and Islamic teaching as well. So these are two things, you know. So this is the context in which I'm going to answer this question. So to go to back to your question, we don't need to have a precedence to use terminology, a new terminology, except for the precedence that in a new situation, if something is necessary to arrive at Islamic injunction, then that thing becomes necessary as well. Ma la yatimul wajib illa bihi, that become wajib as well. That's a general principle in Usuluddin and Usul Fiqh. Ma la yatimul wajib illa bihi fahuwa wajib. Or something like that. Ma la yatimul wajib illa bihi fahuwa wajib. And on that principle, Muslims have invented new knowledges, new disciplines, used new terminology, which earlier generation had no idea about, and we keep doing this all the time. Okay, even those who say that ijtihad the gates of ijtihad has been foreclosed. I mean, in practice, they're doing ijtihad every day. Okay. The only thing is they are not doing ijtihad about things, about which they are not talking, for example. Politics, for example. But if they are doing ijtihad, they are doing that ijtihad not in the context of fiqh, but about general, based on general commonsensical commonsensical reasoning, which is not which is not anchored in Islamic discipline. That's one of the dilemmas, or one of the karisa, or tragedy of books and intervention about, for example, Islamic politics. So for example, Mufti Usmani is a great Hanafi jurist, no doubt about that. But when he writes about Islami Nazriyat, for example, he's just talking in a generic way, quoting Quran and Hadith. He doesn't put his faqih hat on. Why don't you quote fuqaha and relate your situation to their principles? And why don't you go back to those classic texts on Islamic politics? So what I'm saying is, ma la yatimmu al-wajib illa bihi for wajib. So if without using Islamic revolution we can't understand the current situation, and can't apply certain Islamic teachings, especially about politics, to our current situation, or can't understand our current situation according to Islamic teachings, then that terminology become necessary. So that's the precedence in a generic term. Okay, and in a more trivial sense, this revolution and its related terms have been present in Islamic discourse since the time of Sahaba, since the time of early Fuqaha, for example, to our own day, in the writings of different ulama and mujtahideen and mujaddideen, etc. One of the term which goes back to 86th century, 86 Hijri of the Islam. So it's Khairul Qurun, the first Qarn. Khairul Qarni Qarni, Summa Alladhina Yalunhum, Summa Alladhina Yalunhum, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and according to the Christian calendar, that was 706, around that, in Umayyad Khulafa. Obviously, before that, there was revolutions of Ahlul Bayt, but this term, which is present in our history books as well as our political tracts and fiqh book, is Thawra, revolution. So this famous Suratul Fuqaha, it's also known as Suratul Qurra, by Qari Qurra min ulama, Warasatul Anbiya, in which not only Fuqaha but Sahaba Ikram Ridwanullah Ta'ala alayhim ajma'een participated. And there were Fuqaha as well, Muhaddiseen and Sahaba Ridwanullah Ta'ala alayhim ajma'een, like Abdurrahman al-Ashas and others. It's also known as Surat ibn al-Ashas. And there was so in those revolutions or revolutionary events, al-Qurra and Fuqaha and Muhaddiseen and Ashab Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam participated as part of our discourse. You can talk about it more some other time. Similarly, before that, the surah of Imam Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu wa alayhi salam, about which we know. And then in our history there were continuous surah of Surah Ahl Bayt, Surah Nafs Zakiyya, in which Imam Abu Hanifa participated as well, etc. So surah go back, and our concept of revolution, it's not the same as the surah because the situation wasn't the same, but the concept is there. We have to modify it according to our situation, which we have, and which we keep modifying, according to changing situation, and others should do too. And basically, this should be done by ulama. And then in our subcontinent, in recent time, for example, Shah Waliullah, who is Imam of all Muslim scholars and the teacher of all Muslim scholars and subcontinents, and which include Sri Lanka and Burma and Nepal and obviously India and Pakistan, as well as Afghanistan, at least Afghanistan, not only Pashtun parts, but even Persian speaking Afghan parts have Shah Waliullah's students, and Imam Mujaddid al-Fisani's students, and his tariqah. People belong to his tariqah, ulama belong to his tariqah. So Shah Waliullah, in his writing, you can find a concept of revolution. He's talking about fakukul nizam. Fakukul nizam and replacement of it with the Islamic system is a concept of revolution. And obviously then in our subcontinent we were blessed with the tajdeed of Imam Maulana Maududi, who developed Shah Waliullah's concept of fakukul nizam. And by the way, Imam Ubaidullah Sindhi also developed this concept. But Imam Maulana Maududi developed it to the fullest. The concept of Islamic Inqilab is everywhere in his writings, which is basically derived from Shah Waliullah and derived from Islamic nusus, although Imam Maulana Maududi has this shortcoming that he doesn't refer back to the text. But his writings are all based on text. And then Imam Maududi had a great impact on, at least significant impact on Imam Khomeini's concept of revolution, Islamic revolution, which you can read in Islami Hukumat, or his book Islami Hukumat, which is in English. You can find it translated in Hamid Algar's book Islam and Revolution. And obviously Imam Khomeini's concept also has linked to Shia tradition, but that was a great ijtihad within Shia tradition, because Shia tradition doesn't have any concept of revolution. And modern Shia tradition, like I'm talking about Ash'ari tradition. So that was a great ijtihad of Imam Khomeini, tajdeed within Shia mazhab. And the concept of Wilayat al-Faqih basically bridges the gap between Sunnism and Shia to extend that. If Sunni Islamic parties hadn't abandoned the concept of revolution, that would have been a great melting point, really, for the sectarianism and all those things which we are faced with today. So, I mean, this is just a, just a few examples. We can come up with many more examples. So hopefully this gives some idea, and those who are interested in this can read the first issue of Islamic Inqilab. There's the material on Islamic revolution and its justification on there. And next issue, inshallah, we will have many articles, and we will keep printing new articles. And we invite everybody to, all other people who are interested in this topic and are willing to put some time into researching this, to write in English or Urdu for our journal. Okay, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك وصلي وسلم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم عليه. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين آمين يا رب العالمين.